This is Nelward coming at you with a brand new tutorial. This one is my take on the modes. This is a subject that's often talked about, but I made this mostly as a reference for my students, and also just because I think it's interesting, and it can be kind of a gateway drug into interest in other theoretical concepts. At least it was for me. So if any of this stuff is over your head, and you're interested in taking composition lessons, have no fear, you can hit me up, and I can teach lessons from beginner to advanced, so no worries there. Okay, so the modes are like this. So when we start with music, we typically think of the major key and the minor key. But there's a whole other smorgasbord of sounds and different vibes that are available to us through the diatonic modes. So the modes are like this. You got the major scale. If you start from any other note, you're going to get a different mode. So I'm going to start from the second note. I'm going to get the Dorian scale, or the Dorian mode. So it's important in modes to not think of these as different scales. They're just the same scale starting from a different note. That makes it a lot easier. So if you know one scale, which is the major scale, you actually know 7 different scales. You have 7 different flavors that are very, very distinct, and I'm going to show you now how they sound different. So mode 1 is major. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because you might already know it. Major's mode name is Ionian. So let's move on now to the second mode, which is Dorian. Dorian sounds like this. Already a very distinct sound from major, right? An example of a song that would be in Dorian would be this song. Cool, so the Dorian mode to me is the minor's sexier cousin, because it's got that major 6 that gives it a nice free and easy vibe. So we've got Ionian, or major, we've got Dorian, and now we're on to Phrygian. So Phrygian is also a minor mode. Here's an example of a song that's in Phrygian. It would be Lower Brinstar from good old Super Metroid. So Phrygian is a little bit less free and easy than Dorian. It's got a little bit more of a tense sound. That's because of the minor-second relationship between the root and the second note of the scale. We also associate the scale with Middle Eastern music. Okay, moving on. We've got the Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, and now beautiful Lydian. Lydian's probably my favorite mode. It sounds like this. Lydian is a major mode. Here's an example of a song that's in Lydian. It's this one from Super Mario Galaxy. So Lydian gets a really dreamlike quality from that tritone in the scale, or flat fifth, whatever you want to call it. It's so I said Dorian is like minor's sexier cousin. I would say the same, that Lydian is kind of like major's sexier cousin. Another cool thing about Lydian is you can, if you play the root note of the scale, any note that you play is going to harmonize with it well. So I'm just playing random notes and it's sounding cool. And likewise, you can do the same with Dorian, so that's a cool thing to think about. I'm just going to play random notes, going to put the D in the bass. So this only works if you have the root. people into thinking you know a lot of cool chords if you just play random ass notes with the D or the F in the bass. Something to think about. Something to think about. We've got Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and now we've got Mixolydian. So Mixolydian sounds like this. An example of a song that's in Mixolydian, the Chocobo theme. Messed up the last part, but you get the point. Mixolydian to me evokes kind of a sunny atmosphere. It's also very free and easy sounding. Its characteristic sound comes from the minor 7th. So this is a major mode, but it's actually a dominant 7th mode, because the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th note create a dominant 7th chord. The other major modes the other major diatonic modes, Lydian and Ionian, create a major 7th chord. So that's how Mixolydian is distinct. And yeah, sorry, there are a lot of normies outside doing stupid shit. Yeah, Mixolydian, to me, evokes some kind of sunny vibe to me. It kind of feels like, when the sun comes out right after it rains. That's what Mixolydian feels like to me. And there's my CPU farting out right at the most beautiful moment. Okay, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, and now minor. Minor's Greek name is Aeolian. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but here's a song that's in Aeolian. So fresh, so clean. So fresh, so clean. It's not very easy to say. No. So one important distinction to make. An Aeolian sound is one that specifically conforms to the notes in its diatonic pattern, meaning when we have a minor 5, that is the Aeolian sound. 1, 5. Here's a harmonic minor sound. This is 1 to major 5. So both are very common, but it's important. And we're going to talk about harmonic minor in a bit. Just sit tight. All right. So we've got Ionian, we've got Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and now we've got the black sheep of the modes, Locrian. I said Locrian is the black sheep because it's the only mode in the diatonic modes that isn't major or minor. It is actually a diminished mode. So I'll play it really quick. So the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th note of the scale create a half diminished chord. So this is not a very commonly used mode, so I'm just going to play the Chocobo theme in Locrian. Yeah, I kind of like that actually. So Locrian is actually kind of a mode. That's not because it's a diminished mode. There are plenty of great scales derived from diminished chords, being the root. It's just not a very satisfying series of notes. And you can get a better sound out of Locrian by raising that minor second to a major second. Check it out. And that actually creates one of the modes of the melodic minor scale, which brings me to my next point. We've talked about modes derived from the major scale, right? But what if I told you every different scale has its own unique set of modes? So, We've already talked about the major scale modes, so if you've explored those modes and you feel you've gotten a lot out of them, but you want to get more sounds. My suggestion is to check out the melodic minor modes, because the melodic minor modes are very sexy. Just the melodic minor scale. Here's the melodic minor scale being harmonized, going up. So I'm not going to speak about every mode here. I'm just going to speak about some of my favorite modes. The fourth mode of melodic minor specifically is the Lydian Dominant scale. It is a dominant seventh scale, and it's kind of a hybrid between Lydian and Mixolydian. It's got a tritone, and it's also got a minor seventh. And it's just a very beautiful scale. I encourage you to check it out. The sixth mode of melodic minor is actually what's called Locrian Major 2, and to me it's just a lot more palatable to the ear because of that major second rather than the minor second between the root. I use the melodic minor modes quite a bit for my harmonies. You can get a lot of really cool augmented sounds out of there, and that's what I like about it. I like augmented chords because it gives me a really dreamlike sound. This sound's used a lot in jazz and like late romantic, early modern classical like Debussy and Stravinsky. So, okay, we talked about melodic minor. Now we're going to move on to harmonic minor, which so here are the chords. So I don't use these modes nearly as much as I use melodic minor, but there's one mode in here that's particularly very common. It is Phrygian Dominant, the fifth mode of the scale. It sounds like this. You probably heard it before. It gives you that same Phrygian vibe, except it is a dominant seventh mode rather than a minor mode. This is Phrygian minor. I would even venture to say that this mode is more common than the minor Phrygian mode. It's used in a lot of power metal and stuff that's trying to invoke a quote-unquote Middle Eastern sound. And I typically just avoid it because I think it's overused and kind of trite at this point. So those are the modes, the diatonic modes, and if you're interested in checking out new stuff, I would definitely start exploring those melodic minor modes. Oof, they're beautiful. So that's probably my favorite chord, actually, is the C major 7 sharp 5. But anyway, hopefully that painted a clear picture and you got interested in new harmonic possibilities. Once again, if you are interested in lessons, please hit me up. I teach production and composition. So yes, this is Nelward signing out.
Goodbye.